We're going to start it right now.
I mean, everyone's in real time on my eyes.
All right.
Mine's actually uploading
Especially
pretty
your
well
gas
tonight.
nozzle hat.
Yeah, I'm at 99. Do you guys want me to do an official beginning, or does somebody else want to do it?
It's Jim, bro.
The nozzlers.
The guzzlers.
It's the gas house. Thank you. All gas, no brakes. Anyways, I can't do anything. If I was wearing an Alpha Angler hat, you guys wouldn't say anything. But I get a flat brimmed hat, and I got to put up with you guys.
Well, you look good in flat brim.
Well, thanks.
He doesn't look good in
I just don't know how I feel about the gas
about?
nozzle. He's a handsome man.
You are listening to the Alpha BassCast with Jake Boomer, Brian Smith, and Bo Fletcher.
So I'm going to take credit because I called us here. I called us here together to gather together for this podcast.
For this tribal meeting.
There's a lot. I know, because there's a lot going on, and I think the BassCast needs to throw their rock through their windows, right? But
over glass
throw
houses.
Our stain on it.
Yep, everybody's got a glass house. Everybody's got a glass house. We might as well throw some rocks too. But
it's an interesting week. Jake, what happened this week? What's going on?
So hopefully by the time when we get this edited, we had one of our friends. He's not my friend, but he's one of Brian's friends, Ty. I think there was 2 disqualifications due to failed polygraphs in the last Open for Okeechobee. Both guys were polygraphed before the event. And then shortly thereafter, I was able to get a sponsor exemption and get into the Super 60, which I think that kind of ruffled some feathers, but I think mostly just because, well, we could talk about that for reasons, but I think there's a lot going on in our sport, and I kind of feel like it's time to play the game we call your perspective, my perspective. And so Bryant is going to have to take the perspective of, what perspective would you like to take, Bryant? What argument would you like to start with?
I'll be the
professional
tournament angler.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's the only one I know.
Big stretch.
Yep. Bingo.
I'll be the guy that relies on my income from tournament angling.
Which, in this particular scenario, there's very few people like you that really don't have I know you have sponsorships and stuff like that, but you don't have a side gig. You don't go home and run a lawnmower and a job. You don't. You are. If you ain't Durbin, kids ain't eating.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know very many people like that. That's impressive. So you can play that role, and then I'll try not to rant too much. But I think it's a good topic to talk about because I feel like it gets kind of one-sided, and I feel like our source of information in our sport is 100% flawed. And let me give you an example. The social, everybody knows it, but it doesn't seem like people really pay that much of attention to it. But the social media algorithm will always highlight the negative and force it in front of more people. And then you'll have so much of that algorithm that probably isn't even people, could be bots. It drives a very, very negative, top-heavy negative approach to almost every one of our topics. And I still feel like there's 2 sides to every one of our topics, and so I think it's good to talk about. So that's what I wanted to do today. We got the pro angler. We got Bo, who's got a lot of insider info. But in the next, we're going to have 2 scenarios or 3 scenarios by the time this is done. Bo gets to champion another one. Are you ready, Bo?
Let's go.
All right. So for the sake of this conversation, the people getting the biggest beating right now is Bass. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
Does it seem like Bass is just getting run over by a truck? Like, what do you guys think? Like, a lot of negative publicity, a lot of people really excited to throw them in the mud.
I wouldn't say that they're getting run over by a truck because they are a semi-truck. It actually makes sense if you think about it. They're getting hit by a truck, but they are a semi-truck. So they can take a little bit of a beating. But yes, they are under attack.
They are taking the brunt of the latest polygraph. stuff. Like I said, not picking on anybody, just saying it does seem like the most stuff that I'm actually only capable of reading so much of it. But when I get to it, it seems kind of like the brunt of it is that the leagues are taking the blow for the polygraphs and potential damage that it could do to a career. Like with Ty, that's crazy. And I think it's really easy to say, hey, listen, he probably invested 40 grand this year, maybe 50, right? I mean, what's your stake in any given season on the MPFL just for travel expenses and entry fees? Not MPFL, I'm sorry, Bass.
It's gotten better. Like last year was better, but if you take the opens where he was, it's got to be 70, 80 grand. Where I'm at, it's probably 40 to 50. It's a lot. It's not cheap between, all the expenses.
Yeah. So it's understandable. I mean, we did the MPFL. I know what it took. I know what it cost my company, my family, all that stuff. There's a huge burden weight on it, but it matters, right? So the story goes on. Obviously, we've had a couple DQs this year. Up until, I'll be honest with you, up until the point that it was Ty, when Brian and I talked about DQs, we always pretty much assumed that the guy failed. I mean,
correct.
But then when we met, but because we know Ty, I don't know Ty as well as you do, but I have a ton of respect for the guy. Then all of a sudden, we're kind of looking around going, wait a minute. My first thought was, if it could happen to Ty, it could happen to Brian, it could happen to Paul, and it could happen to anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pause for a minute.
Oh, boy.
Let's try to take a look at this statistically. Okay.
Sure.
So, Brian, at each elite event, is there a set number? I don't know the exact rule. Like, is there
6.
a set number of polygraphs that they? 6. How many events were there?
9.
9.
Okay, 6 times 9, 54.
Seems solid. Stacks up.
Wow, I broke both of your brains with the simple math. Okay, so 54 polygraphs were taking the elites, and then did they do polygraphs in every open or only in the EQs?
I believe every open. I would assume every open. Obviously, definitely the EQs.
So that was.
I cannot answer that.
The opens and EQs are what, 9 events total?
4, 4, 3. Simple math, can't
8,
do it.
11.
Thank you.
So 11. And did they do 6 per event? Do you know?
No, I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption. I don't think they did that many.
Okay, let's
say they did.
Take
3.
the assumptions out.
I would estimate probably 3.
Okay, so if you are correct, 11. So the 33 plus 54, 87 polygraphs.
Just round down to 80. I see where you're going with this.
Okay. So of that, because I just looked this up, 7 people were DQ'd.
Even if you round up to 90, that gets you almost to 10%.
It's not.
Right? 7 over 90, a little under 10%. What is that? You're DQing 10%. That's not 10%.
Well, but
yeah.
I still want to give that a little perspective, right? No, if it was, see, you said the word 90. What did we say? How many did I say? 80 something?
87-ish.
Okay. So 7 guys at 87.
Based
that's
on my
8%.
Could be wrong.
Right. But if you just look at the elites alone, 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 4 elite guys not pass polygraphs out of 54. So, and 3 EQ guys out of whatever. So I guess the question is, this goes back to your social media thing. When it's out there on social media, it seems like there was all these guys not passing polygraphs. And just to give a little perspective on it, it seems like there was a lot of polygraphs given comparatively to the people who did or didn't pass them, right?
Right. Like the weight, like what you're saying is the weight of kind of what's going on right now, you think is a lower percentage.
I personally haven't heard that part be brought up. Like, we talk about, you see all this negative energy being pushed at Bass about what's being done, but I don't know why it just popped into my head when we were talking about it here, but it was like, well, how many people have actually been polygraphed?
How many times you get
I don't know.
polygraphed, Brian?
Once.
Did you fail?
Miserably. No, I passed.
He only passed because his answers were.
Here's
Wait, if every answer starts with
oh, what does that mean? Sure. You also have to take into account the accuracy rating of a polygraph test, which is in
Mhm.
perfect conditions 90%.
Mhm.
Right.
So,
But
hold on.
your experience, though,
If you
I see where you're going with this.
if you polygraphed, I'm just saying, devil's advocate for a second here. If you polygraphed every single angler in the Elite Series, 10% of them would fail the test just based off
So
of the
if
accuracy
not-
ratings.
So 4 out of 54.
but my understanding of the test is or at least the ones you took, was it's hard to fail. That's what you told me. You told me that
So it's their
it was
it's their job. My understanding of the test, and this is very limited. I did take one. My understanding of the test and what the guy says when you first go in there is, I just want to find the truth, basically. And they will do anything they can to find the truth. I shouldn't say anything. They will do what they can to find the truth, because if you pass the test, whether you cheated or not, that's not their job, is to judge whether you cheated. Their job is to make sure you told the truth with their polygraph device, right? So even if angler B says, I cheated. I stuffed weights into a fish. I called every tackle shop within a quarter mile and got as much info as I can during the off limits. Even if he admits all that, he will pass the test. Right? That's their job.
Yeah, because he told the truth. Well, if he told the truth, he could have been lying about cheating.
Well,
yeah.
then he
But
wouldn't
if you
pass
told
the
the truth,
test.
then you.
But that's
Right.
that's my point, right? It is their job to make you pass the test, because if you pass the test, then everything you said was truthful to what they asked. Does that
Then
make
somebody
sense?
reviews the questions as truthful, and that's where the failures come in. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh,
So, and this is just my personal experience with it. You take the test, you pass the test. If something comes up like, hey, I talked, like somebody blurted out something, which happened to me. I said that, say, hey, somebody blurted out something. Okay, besides that, what, like, did you solicit any information? No. Besides that instance, no. Okay, I pass. Then Bassmaster will review what you said. Everything's recorded. The whole test is recorded. Bassmaster will review what you said, what you admitted happened. They will judge you from that. And then if you passed, obviously you have nothing else. The problem is they're not always accurate. That's the scary part
right.
about it, right? Like, and that was the thing, like when I'm sitting in that chair and I'm all hooked up, like it's just natural to think, if I don't pass this, my career's over. Like I can't live with myself if I don't pass this. And it's a terrifying, it really is a terrifying thought. If this thing, like I know me, regardless of what anybody else thinks, I know what my intentions are. I know what I did. I know I don't cheat. But if this machine screws up, everybody's going to label me as a cheater. And that's terrifying. It really is. Like
Yeah.
that's the only, and that's obviously
No,
a
I don't think.
small percentage, but it's the thoughts that come across your mind when you're sitting in the chair hooked up. The dude literally said, do not take a deep breath. After I took a deep breath, trying to just, I'm having a heart attack here because there's so much on the line, and I just take a deep breath out of instinct. And he's like, don't ever take another deep breath. Just breathe normal. I'm like, bro, you have no idea how nervous I am for no reason.
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
I know I'm not saying I cheated. I play by the book. But
you took a deep breath, you're out.
Yeah, dude, it's terrifying.
Okay,
It's a terrifying experience.
All right, so let me ask you a few questions. So if you would have failed, I mean, yes, it's horrible because there's two sides of it. You really only would have lost your day's weight, or would you have lost that whole tournament's weight? How does that work?
Whole tournament, full DQ.
Like, okay, so you lose a tournament out of 8.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it doesn't drop you into the bottom 70 and get you kicked out, it's really just an event that's out. It's really not the end of the world. You're still an elite. You're still a pro fisherman. There's the other impact.
Whoa. But okay, thank you. Maybe you're going there.
The other thing is that, yes, you could be labeled a cheater. And yes, the social media engines, there are people that you'll never meet that will never know who you really are, whose opinions only matter to the rest of the people that are actually going to read comments, may think or once call you a cheater, right?
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like they don't take your left hand, do they? Or do they?
Well, I mean, but hold on. Do they? Let's look at this. Okay. Let's look at the elites that failed polygraphs this year and what happened.
I don't think we should mention any names.
No, we're going to, because it's just fact. Scott Martin.
Right. Okay.
I don't.
I'm not the judge or the jury.
We're not talking about judge or jury. Let's talk about the fact that each person failed the polygraph, what happened afterwards. I'm not talking about whether or not they did it. This isn't a judgment. Let's talk about the impact outside of Bass, because this is what you've been talking about anyway, Boomer. So let's look at Scott Martin, right?
He never took a polygraph. To my knowledge,
he refused to take one, right?
Yeah.
He took it independent. That's what it was. I'm referencing. He took remember he said, I'll take my own. But regardless, what was the blowback in the public eye? Like, what was the social media waterfall that happened? Matt Herron, what was the social media waterfall that happened? Same, JT Tompkins, KJ Queen. Like, there was a period of time, whether it was short or long, where every single one of these people got labeled, and it created this social media controversy, right? Where there were certain people, just like what we saw happen with Ty, where there were certain people that were outreaching to him, but then there was other people that was questioning him. And regardless of whether or not they cheated or not, or they lied, blah, 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 whatever. I don't give a shit about that. Excuse me. I don't care about that. Boop, boop. Edit that out. What I think is interesting is the fact that, Bryant, you brought up a really great point that 10% of polygraph tests are questionable or erroneous. You had somewhere just under 10% of the people that took polygraph tests through Bass not pass them, just under. And then the blowback that they have to deal with from anywhere from a short period of time to a longer period of time, depending on, I don't know, maybe their character. Like, they have to deal with a certain amount of stress level, a certain amount of questionability of their character, of the brand they've built for themselves. I mean, you talk about what an angler goes through in a year. Take Brandon Palnick, right? That man has spent years and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars building a brand for himself. Am I wrong?
No.
So his character could be judged entirely on one moment where there's a 10% margin of error. Is that fair?
Well, I think that brings up the bigger question. Anglers, especially the elites, believe that they need this polygraph. They actually asked for it. They asked for a rule that can really only be enforced with a polygraph. There's no other way to enforce it. And so they asked for it. So, switching perspective. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's fair or not, but if you take a step back and look at it, we all asked for this. And I'm going to say we because I don't want to just blame one group of anglers. I want to say that we're all part of the greater complaining group of anglers. Fishermen, and all of us have done it. I have done it too. I have whined and complained about what's fair and what's not fair. And we had that big blow up in the MPFL with walleye boats in the Great Lakes. I mean, I'm just going to say it's we. We as anglers have created a scenario that requires this, and it is that we, and it's human nature, get so caught up in thinking that somebody's cheating and taking a little bit of an advantage of us, and it eats at us like a virus, and the virus spreads to a lot. And in this particular situation, last year, before this season even got announced, before this freaking gun wave of polygraphs hit the elites, Bass tried to walk away from it. They actually announced that they were going to do a 30-day off limits, and they weren't going to, and that there wasn't going to be this huge no information nightmare except for within 30 days of the actual events. And to my knowledge, 74 of the 103 anglers voted to make a full no information rule policy that they all had to live under. And a lot of that's from fear that some guy's going to buy waypoints, or fear that whatever it is. It's this huge fear that somebody's going to get a tiny little bit of advantage over one guy and the next. The anglers are actually asking, we as the anglers, all of us, because of the fact of the competition, because nobody likes to think that one person has an advantage over another, have asked for this rule that can't be enforced any other way. So yeah, right, wrong, or indifferent, the impact of it could be massive to an angler. I totally agree with you. And it's also extremely hard to be 100%, but there's no other way to enforce it.
No.
Right?
That's
There's
the
not.
wrong way. That's the wrong way to say it. It's
Okay.
not there's no other way to enforce it. You're right on everything, but it's not that there's no other way to enforce it. There is no way to enforce it.
That's bingo.
There you go. But it's kind of like
Bingo.
You're dead on everything, but there is no way to enforce it.
no way to enforce it.
In a
And then we could get
in a perfect
Go ahead.
world, we have a no info rule. This is what I want. And this is just, because I am who I am. I want a no info rule. The second you even think that a lake is on the schedule, if you hear an inkling, like in California, we can go check the DFG to see who pulled permits. If you know the tourism board, somebody on the tourism board, and they tell you, hey, Bassmaster's coming here. The second you know that the lake is on the schedule for the next year, it's no info in a perfect world.
No,
we
it's
don't
not
live in
enforceable.
We don't live in a perfect world. It's not enforceable. That's what I want, because I feel like when I show up to a tournament, I want it to be the fairest playing field possible. With all this that has gone on, I don't think it's possible. It's because you either put the no info rule in and the honest anglers abide by it. The questionable anglers don't. Maybe they get caught, maybe they don't. Or you just make it like go for it. No rules, and then as far as info goes, and then everybody is technically on a even playing field, but the first one you can't enforce. The second one sucks because it's not really an even playing field anymore. But if you're having, like, I have doubts about how it's being enforced, because and here's the thing, I don't think it's Bassmaster's fault on how they're enforcing it, and I don't think every angler has broken the rules. And if they have, whatever, they got caught. But I just can't see that many guys, and this is maybe ignorance or whatever, but the rule is broken. And I've said that to quite a few people who've asked me my opinion on it. It's the rule that is broken, and it's only broken because it's not enforceable. You can't enforce it with a polygraph.
But
So can I ask
no, here's a better question. This is a question. Did you vote for the rule?
100%.
Okay.
That's what I want. I
Yeah, it's
want
what
a
you
fair
want, but
I want a fair playing field, but that was my ignorance to it. It's what I want, but it's not like after this year, it's just not possible, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this then. How much does it matter?
I was gonna get there. I was gonna
Like,
actually pull up. Old clips of Dr. McNamara. We're gonna have McNamara back on here and talk about ego depletion theory and mental units once we dig into this.
but no, like seriously, like how much of an advantage is there? Like, I mean, because you go back in the day when Bryant, you and I talked about this earlier on the phone. Like, you know, you had guys. I've heard stories about guys that would walk up to locals' doors. They'd see a bass boat in the driveway and they go knock on the door and offer to buy their waypoints. Like, you had none of this being restricted. But then you had guys like Aaron Martins who refused, right? He refused to get any intel from anyone. And like, so I guess my question is, and I don't know how to create a meter for it, but like, how much of an advantage are we talking? How much of a difference does it make? All three of us can sit here and agree. There has been times, I'm sure, anywhere, and I mean, you know, club life, early on, whatever, where somebody gave you, or like, here, this is where you go on this lake and catch them. I went there 4 days ago and I killed it, right? And you show up and it's like, it's a desert. So I don't know. I've never even stepped foot on the East Coast. I've never been on the big circuit. Like, but really, does it, like, in the big picture, is this a big fight for something that is a small impact?
You don't want my answer.
Yeah, I do.
Let me tell you. Let me give you another story.
I
heard
want
on
Bryant's answer first because
well,
he's the
let
one
me-
who's at that level. But I'm really curious. Does it really make it, like, yeah, maybe some guys might get bumps here and there, but is it really going to make, at the end of the day, does it make a huge difference on a guy's career or how successful they may or may not be? Are we fighting over nothing?
But let me spin it a little bit before Brian answers. So I heard an argument the other day about why an angler wasn't going to fish in a league that had forward imaging. Okay, so just spin it around. The whole argument that this angler put out in their deal was that they weren't going to fish. The argument is that all of you guys are at the same level, irregardless. Everybody's just good. But the guys that go on a run, it's just their instincts. That day, their instincts pay off and they're a little bit better. Everybody knows the same thing and can cast the same and can catch. If they're all in the same area, they'll all catch the same fish. It's instinct that makes the difference. It's your instinct that day. Once again, that instinct has nothing to do with the information you get. So there's another perspective on it that I think is funny, but I also think it's a spin on the same thought process. So with that in your head, answer that question, Brian. Do you really think it matters? Like day in and day out? Or
Yes.
is it just a fear?
No, it does. It does. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. If you can get the 5 best guides on that lake, so you gotta do kind of a big picture to small, right? That's how I approach every lake. I take the whole lake, break it down into sections. Then when we get to the section I like, then I create more sections out of that lake. And now I've dialed into where I want to fish that lake. Does it affect it overall? Yes. I will never say information does not affect the outcome of a tournament, because it is like having, and don't you say anything, Jake, because I've helped you and it never works for you. But it is like
It doesn't help.
it is like taking.
That's why
it's taking a giant. But you have to understand, on my level, these guys already know how to break down a lake. If you're giving them a head start to, where have we fished, Jake? Cumberland. If you could take Cumberland Lake and you have a guy say, this is where you need to, this 10% of this lake is where you need to spend your entire practice. How much better are you going to be than a guy who comes in there with no information, going off instinct, and now I have this whole lake. I have to take a few educated guesses to narrow it down. The guy who got the information is already ahead of that guy. There's no
Yeah, but what's the
denying
margin
that.
percentage of error of that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right, Bo. To answer your question, Bo, let me put it in perspective. Brian Smith fished this last season on the
Here we
West Coast,
go.
on the Northwest. Yep. No, just you're gonna hate this because it's true. In all except for the Super 60, but you also did 5 Pro-Am events, and I think you did a Lake Mojave event. In every one of those scenarios, so 7 of the tournaments that you did on the West Coast, you were against anglers that had all the information, multiple days more practice than you. And they, Super 60 aside, there was no practice. So that's a little bit different. But let's just still say your 3 Super 60s, all of your Pro-Ams, and your Lake Mojave event, and I think you did one more. You missed the top 10 once. You were every one of those tournaments fishing against people that could get guides, fishing against people that have all the experience in the whole world.
You fished one tournament against a guy who I know spent over a month on that lake up to the 2 days off, and you showed up with no practice and took second place.
Yeah. You only tournament that you missed was at the Potholes, and that was the lake that I gave you information so you knew where to be, and you missed it by 4 places because you were fishing stuff that I told you about. So does the information...
It's a gamble.
Well,
we're putting all this energy into a gamble one way or another. And I know we're dealing with the elite of the elites, and I understand your perspective, Brian, of
the
like,
difference.
yes, maybe it shortcuts their process.
You are giving the best of the best a shortcut.
But what if it's wrong? What if it changes?
What if it doesn't matter?
No.
None of us are.
I'm not saying that it affects every tournament. You asked if it has an effect. There's no doubt it does. Is it an advantage? Yes, 100% it's an advantage. You're ahead of everybody out there. But is it going to affect every tournament? No. I don't think it's going to affect the outcome of every tournament. But all I want is a fair playing field. And when somebody can get information.
But let's go back to, you keep saying you want to play a fair playing field. That's not possible. But let's take real life, right? Is there ever a fair... the old adage, life ain't fair, right? But we just proved with numbers that it doesn't matter. So what if that I want a fair...
That's my point,
what if
I spent all of this money, all of my time, my whole life trying to get to this level. All I want is a fair playing field to show my skills against every single other person. Is it reality? No, it will never be reality.
Well, but that's where I
want. But is it what I want?
Right?
100%.
Okay, but it's what you want. But look at it now. Now that you guys all got what you wanted, are you happy with it?
Clearly not.
Now that the 74 of you, and I'm not going to even say it's the 74 of you. I'm going to say it's all of us. I'm going to say I'm in the same boat because I've lost my bacon on something I thought was unfair. And we'll go into that story in a little bit. I sent a scathing email to Brad Fuller, like, this is beep, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just as guilty as every other angler. But what I'm trying to say is, once you realize that it's not fair, are you happy when you got what you wanted? Are you happy when the league went after the fairest way to do something, which is probably impossible? And then on top of that, before you answer that, we just had a sports psychologist in here talking about the impact of these little tiny, I need things to be fair, little weapons that get in your head. You know what I mean? Great example, room with a couple guys that keep saying everybody else is cheating. We have a mental capacity of what we're able to deal with on a given basis. You go to one of the toughest tournaments in the world, and when you walk into the room, nobody's talking about what they caught that day or how fishing went. They're talking about how so-and-so is cheating. That's taking mental capacity, right? I call it the jealous freaking spouse effect, where it's like the minute you get jealous of your spouse, irregardless if they cheat or not, they're already guilty. And all you are is consumed by that jealousy, right? Well, maybe she talked to a boy and blah, 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 right? As that grows in your brain, it takes away your ability to do really, really well. And what always happens with a couple jealous spouses? What's always the outcome?
Divorce.
Divorce. The
Well-
outcome is Bass getting smashed on every podcast for trying to enforce something that we all asked for that's unenforceable. We can all agree it's unenforceable. Maybe there's different versions of it, but that's what we're asking for, right?
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's the thing. I'm not disagreeing at all. We asked for an unenforceable rule to be enforced. The best way that Bassmasters thought they could do it was with a polygraph. Polygraph is at the very best 90% accurate. So it's the reality versus what I want it's just I'm going to have to deal with the reality of it. That
Right.
there might be guys that have. My thing is, I don't mind if a guy goes out there and earns the information. And by earn, I mean takes time away from his family, away from his life, and dedicates it to going and learning a body of water or learning a lake. I have no problem with that's just working harder than your competition. You deserve to be better than your competition. I don't like shortcuts. But in this scenario, there's just no way, and we've had this conversation, Jake. There's no way to enforce it. It's a broken rule. And it's not broken because of the idea behind it. It's broken because it's not enforceable. So what would I rather want? Rather have a rule that's enforceable.
Well, and I think that's
It sucks.
across any organization. Well, I think across any organization, and let's go beyond the no information rule for a minute. Like, you need to put black and white boundaries within the rule books of these organizations, and there's always going to be gray on each side of that black line. And if you spend the time in that, and if you spend the time trying to enforce that, you're going to end up with failures. But if you can control the black and white, and you know that it's human nature to find the loophole, right? Like, somebody's always going to try to find their way around, or how do I find the way in between? But if you focus on the simple from an organizational standpoint, then the rest has got to weed itself out. I mean, that's part of the game. Any game you play, right? It doesn't begin and end at fishing. Like, you look at high level team sports like NFL, like, how are they finding those gray areas in the rule books to be able to get the advantage? It's always going to be there, right? It's going to be that pure.
That's a good point. It is strange. Like, cheating is the absolute devil in bass fishing. I shouldn't say cheating.
But it happens in every sport.
Bending the rules, finding the gray is the absolute worst thing you can do in a bass tournament. And it's somewhat glorified in other sports. It is a strange dynamic. I'm not obviously condoning finding the gray, because I read the rule, I see what the rule means, and that's what I take out of it. I don't read because, well, that comma's right there, so I can do this, or this is not the right word here. I don't read into it. I read the rule. I understand what the rule is intending on doing, and I follow it. But it is funny how in sports, like different sports, breaking rules it's not okay, but it's kind of okay. It's like you're getting an advantage. You're trying to win. It is strange.
I think that's perspective again.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's perspective.
You're 100%
too. Like,
right.
everybody's going to continue to. Everybody's going to continue to hate the Houston Astros because of what they got away when they cheated in the World Series, right? Guy beating on a garbage can, knowing what the pitch count was. But the guys that are there now, most of them didn't have anything to do with it. It's just a perspective. Like, yeah, people cheat. Where it gets more complex in our sport is when you break a rule in football or baseball or some of these other rules, the outcome is, it's a little bit more understandable, for instance. But in our sport, we have this one wild unknown. And so when I get caught up with guys complaining about the fair concept, right? none of our tournaments are one day. Most of them aren't. Most of our tournaments are over the course of a season, right? There's this whole fair analogy, right? Well, that guy got a little bit of an edge because he got some information. Well, we're fishing against, in our sport, something else with a brain. No other sport has it, right? Cheating baseball, know what the guy's going to throw. But I equate this like, hey, there's probably, let's just say that 5% of the guys we're fishing against. And if I drove through the parking lot with all you guys in the truck, we could point at hey, who's that? Well, he's probably in the 5%. And I'm pretty sure that guy's in the 5%. But at the outcome of every day, that guy has a chance of being a little bit ahead of me. And that's unfair. That could really control your thought process. I can't believe that they allow this guy to have this unfair thing. But in the same breath, on that same day on the tournament water, some ding dong could be picking a backlash out, bomb his stuff out to the other side. It was never a competitive cast. It had nothing to do with it. He's picking a backlash, eating a sandwich, and a 7 eats it, right? The guy had no business catching that fish. But on that given day, caught it. He bumped me down a place or two, right? That our sport has so much of that dynamic that actually being good at our sport isn't worrying. If you're so concentrated on this guy might cheat or that guy might cheat, and this is statistic, you can go look at it. Look at the guys that are losing their bacon on social media about some set of rules and look at the course of their finishes while they're doing that. You can't do it. You can't have the mental stability to turn into Bryant and show up and things make sense quickly if 50% of what you're thinking about when you're not on the water is the potential of somebody cheating or this sport's going the wrong way because of this rule or another one. So yeah, cheating has an impact, but in our sport, we have longer seasons. I feel like because of that, because we're fishing against something that's different.
But also, there's like, it should be so much more simpler than it's made. Like the rules, first of all, there's so many levels to this, man. So you have people like Bryant, okay, like start on the elites, and even what Mark's trying to build on the BAM Pro Tour. You're trying to build people who are trying to create some sort of level of a living out of this, whether it's, you know, their passion project that they're making a living doing while they're having a job. Like there's energy being expended into building a brand, building something around the passion of what they're doing, right? And as an organization, I think that part is what's getting lost. Everyone's and you get that derby mindset. You've got guys, Bryant, like yourself, who you want this pure derby mindset thing. But there's this other part of you that needs to make a living doing this. And you can't have the organization shut you down or a group of anglers that make decisions about how things should go so things are fair, shut down that other part. People are trying to make a living doing this, right? And so if the organization can take what's simple, rules that are enforceable, things that are very strict and black and white, and then following through by being incredibly consistent, having the same outcome for the same rules that are either followed or not, right? Like simple, not easy. But like you start to look at some of these rule books and there's all this gray that gets plugged in and all these details that get plugged in. And I feel like in some way, if you make it simpler, yeah, you're going to have people that try to push against the boundaries, right? And there's got to be something that tells you black or white whether or not you cross that boundary or not. But when you start playing in the gray like this, you're dealing with something much bigger. I mean, Bryant, yeah, I know you want a pure experience, right? You want that like level playing field, but you also in this same hour, you also mentioned that you actually were scared for your entire career in one moment while you had to be questioned about a single event. And I don't think that's worth it for anybody. Anybody who's putting themselves on the line and doing all this work, like, yeah, shame on the organization that had to create something that was so gray and start to look at something that was so gray that a bunch of anglers had to come together and determine a path for it, right? Like at the end of the day, and maybe this is something that comes back on the anglers too, like let's just look at what's black and white. Cheaters are going to cheat. People are going to try to buck the system. That's just the way it works. And if you have these hard black and white rules that are simple and easy to follow and has very clear consequences that everyone has to adhere to, then everyone can go on and function as they need to within it, right? And then we're not spending all this time and all this freaking energy talking about whether this guy's a cheater or not a cheater, or what did he do or didn't he do, or we think this and these guys think that.
But I think
It's like,
I think the point you're trying to make is it's our fault, and it is our fault. Like,
yes and
for
no.
one, to go
I
back
mean,
on what you said, it's
our fault, but it's also the organization's
no,
fault.
it's not the organization's. Yeah, maybe they're running it like a bunch of idiots, right? I'm not pointing.
It's not even about that. Make the rules, set the rules, and put blinders on.
They don't have that control. When 9 of your top guys, when you get a phone call from 15 freaking guys who are your top guys, they're the ones with the biggest sponsors and the biggest, and they have the most influence, and they have a huge following on social media, and all they do is they get on the phone and they complain about something.
You stand your ground and you accept the legacy that you think.
I don't think it works that way. What happened in 2019? They all walked, right? Like, you're talking about an organization that lives and breathes and has people that have jobs just like our lives as pro anglers, right? You're talking about, okay, you can stand your ground and be a jerk, and I'm not saying that they didn't do anything wrong. There's no perfect people. Us as professional anglers, us as a group of anglers, there's not perfect. And if they weren't perfect, then what, 70% of their anglers wouldn't have walked in 2019. But if you're running an organization like Bass, you go into survival mode. You can't start standing your ground if everybody's going to walk, right? Same scenario with these rules. If you get to a point where a bunch of your pro guys with the most influence get mad, you're changing the rules. Correct me if I'm wrong. Almost every change Bass has made has been to cater to votes. Well, you guys have an angler committee now, right? We are all making these decisions and driving the organizations to change based on what we want. And now there's a little bit more divide than there was before. The polygraph rule is just one of them. You could go back to the forward imaging rule, right? You could talk about all that stuff. You get the right amount of people with the right amount of upset, and the league is changing to meet what we want. It's all our fault. And so I agree and disagree. The biggest problem I think Bass is getting bashed for being forced to, I mean, in all honesty, did they go a little draconian with 6 polygraphs per event? Sure, it might have gone over the line. But
yeah, but hold on. Well, I look at other sporting organizations. You have an association that sets the playing field. And then you have teams or individuals or people that show up on that playing field that's already set. What other sport is there where rules are being adjusted and the playing field's being changed based on anglers' opinions and their clout?
Well, unfortunately, I think that's one of the problems.
Do you want to know why? Do you want to know the answer?
Do you see it happen?
Do you want to know the answer to that?
Yes.
We're not athletes. We're customers.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like,
it's the truth.
Our sport isn't there yet. Yes, I agree.
You know what solves all this? Everybody getting the $150,000, $200,000 by the end of the year for getting last place. You wouldn't hear a peep. You know what?
Tell you the guy that's getting kicked out.
You know what provokes all this? The fact that we have 101 different people, different teams, different businesses, all fighting for what they want. And what is Bass?
Nature.
100%. Bass, we are the customers. We were the customers until last year. We are the customers. And when we want a change as a customer, if you're running a restaurant and 85 of your 100 customers that day say you need to change the recipe, you got to change the recipe. Or else you won't survive. Bass didn't have a choice but to listen to their customers, in my opinion.
And look what that got him.
Whose fault was it?
And look what that got him. And look what it's done. It's not like all you guys went, well, we asked for this and supported it.
Dude, I was one of them. Like
I know.
and that was my ignorance part. That was my in Bryant's perfect world, everybody's on a fair playing field and nobody's getting information, and we're going to test it with polygraphs and it's going to be great. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Like there's almost a little bit of guilt. I don't know every instance of who failed a polygraph, who passed a polygraph. I don't know. But there's a little bit of guilt if somebody got popped on a polygraph that I voted for and they truly didn't do anything wrong. That's why I think literally, dude, we just got to grow up. This is what I'm doing. I'm growing up. I'm accepting the fact that all I control is what I control. I got to trust that Bass is going to treat us as fairly as possible, create the most even playing field possible within reason. I have to understand that people are going to push the gray areas, and I got to do my thing. And you've touched on it a couple times. Like, what do they call, what does Dr. J call it? The mental units?
Well, there's two theories. There's ego depletion, right? Ego depletion theory, which is the outside world affecting you, but there's also just mental units. Truck, and let's just say you look over and you're just like, man, that guy, his parents gave him all his money and he's a cheater. Like, there you go. You just added mental units. Your thought should have been, how am I gonna beat that guy? I wonder if I still have those worms in the truck, because I think that might get a bite on. See what I'm saying? You only have so many mental units, right?
Yeah, I gotta.
And I want to take
one more thing.
Oh boy.
I have to, and this is for me, I have to accept the fact that we are imperfect. We are in an imperfect sport. There is no possible way, based on just human behavior, that everybody's going to play the way I play it. Within the rules, this is the intent of the rule, this is what I'm going to follow. I just have to be okay with the fact that I have to do my thing. And my thing is what matters. I don't have time anymore to worry about what other people are doing. I have to trust the organization that they're going to put the rules in place that work to the best of their ability with, if it's with a little bit of angler input, sure. But it's not worth my time to worry about what other people are doing. You just got to be okay with that.
Yeah. I'm going to give a little history lesson. Because somebody had a podcast not a while ago. Let's listen to it. Like, what could we do and how do we get here? And
if there was an easy answer, it would have been solved 50 years ago.
Right.
There's just not.
But
it's the same thing with every other political divide, even in our country. The reason why we're still arguing about the same stuff we've been arguing about for 50 years is because there is no easy answer. It's just the way it is.
There's not. But this I'll help you guys focus on stuff, because we've been studying this a lot with some of the stuff we're doing. The biggest shift is, you say like, hey, you got 85 customers, they got mad, they said something, and the business had to change to it. Well, back in the day, they didn't have to, and 85 customers back in the day didn't have the impact that they have now. And the biggest change to that is social media. The biggest change is that we all were forced to go to social media to we're all forced into the algorithm to keep our sponsors happy. But the problem with it was we all were given this platform where we can influence so many people. And as we got bigger and bigger and bigger, our opinions started to hit. Well, the algorithm will always force negativity. And the analogy I have today is between Brandon and Trey McKinney. If Brandon would have come up when Trey McKinney did, there's a pretty good chance that Brandon wouldn't be the hero of bass fishing. Right? I mean, what a lot of people don't know is Brandon got DQ'd on his way up. He got DQ'd once in a regional, which he doesn't know if he broke a rule or how he broke the rule, but it was put on the Bassmaster on the website. It was put on Bass Fan. if everybody had social media at this point in time, and I don't even know the whole story. I just remember Brandon didn't make it that year because of some regional rule that got broken. I think he broke down and had to get towed. So there was something about it was a technicality that he broke. I can't remember how it was, but Brandon, back when he came on, he was the one that kind of pioneered social media and brought it to the forefront. He's one of the first guys. But back then, Bass controlled the narrative. They controlled the media. They controlled what people said about what was going on. And if they had a fight about something with all their anglers, that could be contained. It didn't fly out into this huge negative sphere of social media where the bots and all of the haters get involved in it. And unfortunately, because we have all of our sponsors looking at our social media, they're looking at it going, what the hell are those guys doing over there? You know what I mean? It makes you wonder why they're walking, right? It's well hard to get sponsors. And I'll give you an example. Trey McKinney, his first year of his tournament career got polygraphed 6 times out of 9 tournaments. Brendan's been polygraphed 6 times in 15 years. You know what I mean? What's the difference? So the difference is that when we hate on something as a group, which we've seen in society, we're actually controlling and moving the narrative around, and Bass is being forced to answer to that. And the biggest bump in the road is when everybody walked, right? When we want out. For whatever reason they want out. I'm not going to say Bass is perfect. If Bass was perfect, 70 of the 105 guys wouldn't have walked, right? But there's definitely going to be these shifts that go back and forth. But once again, I believe it's all of our issue. It's all of us complaining about the same things all the time. It's a large group of people that usually drive these scenarios that we get to. There's my
Herd
rant.
mentality.
But that little history is a big thing to know. What's that?
Herd mentality.
That's exactly
Herd
what it is.
mentality. Yes.
That's all it is. That's social media, is herd mentality. If somebody says something negative, the rest of the herd is going to catch on. The
1000%.
best thing you can do is just stop. Just stop with the negativity. It doesn't do anything. What does negativity breed? More negativity. It's the whole world we
and
live
the biggest thing, and Brian, you know this because me and you spoke about this last year and other times. Unfortunately, in our sport, like in anything else, you get behind something that you don't feel is fair. And the example, I'll go back to the example. Let's talk about the example because you and I got into it really bad, and we were part of this group of guys. We were going to be fishing the Great Lakes. There was a loophole in the MPFL rules for the first year that didn't require you to use the boat you started with. Remember this story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Brian and I were pretty upset when we were rolling into the Lake Erie MPFL event, knowing that we had bad weather on the horizon and guys were going to be allowed to use walleye boats. So a lot of the locals had access to walleye boats. We were already pretty upset, losing our bacon about it. This big group of guys with lots of negative conversation going around about how this guy's going to have a walleye boat and this guy's going to have a walleye boat. Totally encumbered all of our thought process. That wasn't the big thing. The big thing was when we were having the arguments about it, we knew that it would be really hard to land a smallmouth out of a walleye boat in 4-footers. 5 days before the tournament happens, tournament director comes out and in a league that doesn't allow nets said, "Hey, we're going to allow nets in this particular tournament." I don't know who called who first, but Bryant and I went through the roof, along with the group of people this group of people that were stewing about this unfair advantage going to be given to this group of people. And
So
I
you're in a
promise
walleye with a net.
yes. Dude, I'm telling you, I've never been. I'm saying it's all of us. We've all done it. We've all felt like this is unfair and lost our bacon. It was the worst tournament I had. The absolute worst tournament I had in the MPFL. I was probably one of the most angry. And the best part about the whole thing, and the only critique I would give in to that scenario was eventually after we all were losing our minds, this group of guys that were so upset, the tournament director came out and said, "Hey, listen, because of the time of year, we had the fisheries biologists tell us that fighting certain size fish for a certain amount of time almost guarantees mortality. They're going to die. By you guys not light line fishing, fighting these things for 8 minutes, but we give you a net and you can just, instead of trying to scoop them in the wave, you just scoop them up. The mortality rate's going to drop by like 40%. Like, it's a no-brainer. Of course you'd have nets, right? It wasn't really transferred to us, though. We didn't know it until later on. Not until after we went just absolute nuclear. And I'll never forget that example. And here's the best part. Only one guy showed up in a walleye boat, right? I think it was only one. Yeah.
One
And it didn't have
walleye
any
boat.
effect on the tournament. One walleye boat. But I bet
It
you
didn't make a
for
damn bit of
5 days,
difference.
the virus, and I was right in the middle of it. I was stewing everybody I could talk to. I was bad mouthing. I was part of that growing virus, just like everybody else. That's why I say we've all done it. And so it's just a tough scenario.
It's human nature.
All right. Human nature. If you want to
Yeah.
succeed in this sport, though,
Stop being human.
you gotta. Yeah, that's the way I think
Duh.
about you sometime. I'm not
Pretty
sure you're
simple.
100% human.
Stop being human.
Yeah, you're kind of like a fish catching sloth.
Good with that.
Where's the water? Look, I got 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, man, it started this week too, that you could feel that group of people, the virus starting with the whole Taiao making the Super 60 on a sponsor exemption. And you're like, here it goes. And there's always two perspectives, right? Sponsor exemptions are part of our sport because it's hard to run a tournament league. It's hard to grow a tournament league. But I didn't hear the virus growing at all when we let in the other sponsor exemption, right? But this wave, the phones start ringing. I remember reading an article from Luke Clausen about tournaments, and the article was about information and getting information during tournaments, talking to your friends about the way things are going and how detrimental it was. Even guys in the tournament that were practicing the same body of water as you, when they called you and said, "Hey, this is working," it was derailing you. He said, I mean, I'll never forget the article. He said, my goal is just don't answer the phone. Just stay away from that wave. You know what I mean? But that same thing happened with, I mean, you could feel the wave coming of sponsor exemptions, but you got to look at the flip side, right? A lot of guys got into sponsor exemptions. A lot of guys got in with applications. We're running a league. The same thing happened with Bass. Bass does the same thing with legend exemptions, right? It is the other side of the story.
You
The
can't build
danger
There's
is the
still
virus.
15 guys that never qualified for the elites. Who fish them now?
Right.
It's
Well, and
just
I think, didn't they elites finally
the
get rid of
leagues. The league
legend
have
exemption?
to survive. You know, it's
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about when the split happened and they invited however many guys over from FLW.
Oh, that's
None-
right. There's still 15
None of those
guys
guys
left.
ever qualified.
Gotcha.
But you don't see all the opens guys up in arms.
And
You have to understand, it's the league's prerogative to do what they want. It's their business. You're a customer. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. But don't break them down for it. If you have a business, you don't want people talking bad about your business, leaving you bad Yelp reviews. Could you imagine the Yelp reviews on Bassmaster?
Do they got a Yelp
Like-
account?
Like Yelp is
That's
the
good.
Yelp is the worst thing
That's
in the
really
world.
good.
Like
Yeah.
just
Oh man,
it
the
is
Yelp
their
Bassmaster account.
it is their decision. Do I want the best for the anglers? Absolutely. Like I'm one of them. But I have to be okay with it's their business. They have to be profitable. They have to make money. Would I love them to pay out $100,000 to the last place guy in Angler of the Year? Absolutely. It's not reality. The reality is it's their decision. The reality is it's an imperfect world. And the reality is overall, quit the freaking negativity of it. It's just, it doesn't help anything. Come up with solutions. Don't come up with, well, that's just wrong. Okay, cool. Cool story. Don't start to be a part of the virus.
I think
be a part of the solution.
Yeah, 100%. I think Dr. McNamara, like some of the stuff he talks about, especially in his book, I think is kind of like that, like the you do you thing, right? Is Bass going to be perfect? No. Are they going to screw stuff up? I'm 100% sure they are.
100%. We
But
all
so are
screw
we,
stuff
right?
up.
But this sport, yeah, but this sport is a bloodbath. right? And it's getting worse. Like the kids that are coming up, I heard people complaining about, well, they don't have a wife and kids to go home to, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but a kid coming out of college going into the NFL draft doesn't have a wife and kids to worry about either. He eats creatine sandwiches and works out every day of the week. He doesn't go home and hang out on his yacht. So yeah, he's going to take your spot. That's his job. That's what this is. It's a professional sport. Same thing. Guys are complaining about that. I'm like, man, you do you, but trust me, the kids coming up that we're bashing, that are getting bashed by their, like, the kids that are coming up right now are facing the fact they're getting bashed by their childhood heroes. And then on top of that, we're judging them for the way they're reacting. That's the argument I heard the other day. I almost threw up. We're judging 19 and 20-year-old kids when their peers don't like them because they do well. They call them cheaters and everything else, right? Like, I don't care if you love or hate Trey McKinney, but 6 polygraphs and 9 tournaments, and he didn't fail one, but they kept polygraphing. And then we judge him on the way he responds when the whole world, the people that he looked up to, grew up, hated him, hated on him. That normal humans don't have to deal with that much kind of hate. So that whole sphere, like, you do you, love the sport, but be really careful about, you know what I mean? Don't put your faith in the no information rule, or like, you do you. You better turn into Bryant Smith. That's the goal. Turn
I
into,
wouldn't go that far.
Just show up with a real dumb look on your face and 30 pounds everywhere you go. I don't know. They just jump in the boat.
Pretty much.
I just went back to that spot and they were still there.
They were still there. They moved.
2006 the last time I caught them there, but my gosh, they were
They
still
moved
there.
about 2 miles, but I found them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That was good.
I mean, the good news is I think the West Coast is growing, and I'm super happy with Mark, the sacrifice, Mark has been making for the West Coast. I fear the virus coming at him, but I think he can take it. He's ex-military, right? So.
Yeah, but he also has to build the box and stick to the box.
Agreed.
And,
For sure. We gotta,
he's got an incredible product. Like you talk about, we're customers, right? Like he's got a ground level product in the Pro-Ams that has a very powerful opportunity for local influence. And that is the catalyst for his success at the higher levels. And, while he's made the decisions that he has, even bringing, working with Ty to get him in through a sponsor exemption, things along those lines, there's still a grassroots thing on the West Coast that needs to be honored because that's what's going to keep it moving. BAM isn't Bass. Bass has giant corporate sponsors. They have television money. They have this whole other playbook of cash flow that they have coming in. And the West Coast may someday be there. That's a dream for all of us. But the reality is that baseline level of sponsorship is bootstrapped by the people that show up every day and pay their entry fee.
No.
And
well, I'm glad
as long as he respects that and keeps the box, I think it's going to be a successful thing.
I agree with you. I'm glad that that's our opportunity. But I also think nobody's perfect, right? He's going to screw something up.
Everybody's going to screw up.
It's how we deal with it. It's how us as anglers deal with it.
Well, that's how you learn.
Yep. If we all get together and act like a bunch of, well, I won't say any names, then we'll get back. But you got to remember, he's ex-military. I don't know if you remember this, but we were at a tournament, I think it was Watts Bar. And the way that, because we remember at NPFL, you had to load your boat and you could only go one direction to load or you stopped the whole process. And Brad Fuller, ex-military, like, I don't know what he was, some commando, but he said something like, he goes, if you go the wrong way here, he's showing a map on how to do it. He goes, if you go the wrong way here, I will use every assault rifle I have in my truck on you. And I'm like, well, how many's he got? I remember that.
There's a lot of questions.
Amazing.
Tournament directors, there's a lot.
There was a lot of questions there. How many? How big? And which way do I go?
Yeah. Dude, I paid attention.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a good one. I think
One
it
more
should end
thing.
soon, though. Or we're gonna get into even more trouble.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
One more
Better
thing.
write it down.
We have been through a lot of ups and downs with West Coast bass fishing. Been doing this for a long time. We are at the beginning of a really, really cool scenario, a really big uptrend in West Coast bass fishing with One Bass, with BAM. I truly think that's the perfect amount of tournaments. It's the right guys running it. Please don't screw it up. And what I mean by that is just don't be negative. If you're not going to fish, dude, don't say anything. We don't need your input if you're not going to show up. Okay? Leave that for the guys who are showing it. If you're going to say something positive, let her rip. But if you are sitting on the sidelines and you are on Facebook and you're the keyboard warrior and you just like your fingers are tingling because you want to say something negative today, go say it to the wall. Okay?
Swim bait Johnny.
Yeah. Do not get on Facebook and knock
Swim
down
bait.
the best opportunities that we have had in a long time on the West Coast. Because these guys, trust me, they have to deal with bass fishermen. That's probably the worst job that I could ever think of. They are not doing it
Yeah.
because it's
I'll
fun.
piggyback on that.
They're doing it because they want to
Yeah.
grow West Coast bass fishing. So just if you need to say something negative, go look at the wall, say it, get it out, and then type something positive on Facebook. Type something positive on Instagram. But the negativity needs to stop. It really does, because it doesn't help anything. And I'll stop. That was my
But
sonic
remember this,
rant.
it won't. I like it, and I think you're right. But let me piggyback on saying it won't stop. It's not.
What are you talking about? We have at least 6 people that listen to this. Those
I know.
at least
It's
6
not-
people
what-
that are going to
just-
stop talking
But
negatively
the
about
answer is
bass fishing.
If you're going to say something shitty, just pay the entry fee first. So
there
it
you
goes
go.
into the
100%.
pool. And you don't have to show up. But then the rest of us that show up, at least we get to, reap the benefits of your
Is the biggest pet peeve
mouth.
of mine is when people
I think
slam
we all.
anglers or organizations and they don't have any money in the pot. Show up and you can scream at my face. Got no problem with that. Pay your entry fee. But if you aren't, don't ruin it for everybody else.
The good news to everything you guys are saying is that they're going to still do it, but social media is not new. We know what it looks like. And in most cases, most people don't care. Like Joe Rogan says, don't read the comments. I don't read the comments on any of this stuff. I don't care. We all realize that there's going to be haters. We don't care. You do you, right?
You
Bryant,
do
me, Bo. We're going to do us. We're going to go figure out how to win the next derby and put our heads down. So if you don't listen to Bryant, which Bryant is actually saying the right thing, we know what it looks like. We don't care. The only victory would be is if you got us to respond, and I think we're all beyond that. I hope we are.
100%.
I hope we are, for crying out loud. All right. BassCast number 15, 18, 20. I don't know where we're at.
458.
That's right. I can't wait till we
Boom.
get to 458.
If we make it that far,
Strangling
I'll be
each other.
impressed.
The one guy that still listens.
All right, boys.
The one guy. All right, gentlemen. You're awesome. Thank you.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the Alpha BassCast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and rate us. We'll see you next time.